everyone. We're in this interview having a look at this being essentially a start of a series of interviews that we're going to walk in response to Abraham-Hicks' interview regarding the missing piece. And in this interview, we're having a look at the point of choice and free will, in how within the missing piece interview by Abraham-Hicks, the emphasis is placed on choice, that human beings have chosen their life experience on Earth, and how it is almost unfathomable with regards to why it is that human beings would deliberately choose a life of suffering, of abuse, of famine, of poverty, of growing up in a war-stricken country, being exposed to murder, rape, and violence, but that such a life was chosen, and that we had come into this life on Earth with absolute free will and an abundance of choices that exist within our everyday lives. So within this interview, we're going to have a look at why it is that this point of choice and free will is so promoted within spirituality, especially in having a look at the lives of human beings on Earth, where it had simply become convenient for the minority of us within the world system with direct access to money and luxuries to say that the majority of this world had chosen the life that they are living and have an abundance of choices to change their lives and have free will to within that change the choices that they are deciding to make, that is carving out their life within this world on this Earth. Within this, to understand, let's first take it into physical practicality. A child is born into this world, into a family, or, even if one have a look at the atrocious conditions that babies can be born into within this world, and many of them even actually thrown away like garbage, that child has got no concept of choice or free will. And within that, if one walk with us in the Quantum Mind interview series, where we're walking the detail of the extent to which a child, for example, will, as they're coming into this world and this reality, will form and shape and mold who they are based on the parents' direct influence, behavior, words, sounds. I mean, a child is essentially mentally and physically like a sponge that absorb the detail of their physical reality. I mean, the detail of the parent's voice, and the very frequency, the sound and the energy within their voice will be spoken and resonate within the child, that the child will thus energetically pick up, for example, and believe that they are experiencing the mother's voice. But what's in fact happening is the mother is imprinting her experience of herself in those words onto the child. Within that, for example, the parent's behavior. The parents will behave in certain ways in front of the child, and the child will pick up on the resonance of the parents' very behavior, that as the parents behave and interact and physically move in certain specific ways, it gives off a resonance, because what the parents are accessing in that moment in their physical is their quantum mind, their personalities, that resonate and imprint onto the child. The child believe that the reactions that they are experiencing toward their parents' behaviors and physical interactions is them reacting, but all that the child was experiencing was in fact only the parents that imprinted onto the child. And so the child will come of age mentally and physically as the mind in the physical body, and believe that it is them that have certain experiences towards certain voices, towards certain physical behaviors and interactions. But it was not in fact them themselves that had made a decision, a decision with an absolute awareness of who they are, for example, toward certain people's voices or physical behavioral interactions or movements. All of it was imprinted into them by their parents as babies, as children, that the child thus believed is who they are. So in this, with Walking the Quantum Mind interview series, one will realize that choice to not play any role, even within who you are, within and as your mind in the physical. One did not at any point within and throughout one's entire life taken a breath and decided, for example, this is who I'm going to be in my thoughts, in deciding and actually choosing which thoughts are going to occupy your mind. What's the content of the thoughts going to be? You did not make an absolute decision in awareness with regards to, all right, I am now going to have this emotion and this feeling to this memory or this thought or this person. It was never something that you in awareness instructed within yourself in an agreement of who you are going to be within certain personalities toward certain people, the environment, your life as a whole. It's like everything within you had simply automatically always been there. And within this, furthermore, if one simply have a look at one's simple relationship to one's thoughts, and how much one's thoughts simply automatically emerge and manifest into one's conscious mind. I mean, one did not make an informed, aware decision in a moment, kind of sitting there with oneself deciding, now I'm going to, let's see, gather together all of these thoughts, string them along into a perfect line, and let them run as a pattern within my conscious mind that I can sit and watch and entertain myself with. Everything in one's quantum mind in the physical is and has been automated, and within that automatically simply accepted as it all being who I am. But with Walking the Quantum Mind series, one will realize that one had never had choice in anything of who one is in the mind. One had simply accepted it based on what was imprinted into one's mind from one's external world and reality. Within that, let's also have a look at, for example, choice within the context of our relationship to the world system as a whole. Now, the entire world system is structured hierarchically in that you have the absolute minority elite at the top, and then you have the rest of the money in like these circular rings underneath the elite's primary ring, where the money is like rippling off like a waterfall, essentially. And the abundance of money is being held or controlled by the elite as those that govern and control the very businesses, industries, corporations, economic systems. So within that, let's say you're a human being in the middle, lower class of society. One's relationship to one's job, for example, is in no way dependent on choice or free will. It is dependent on the decisions and the actions that is being made by the elite, the hierarchy within the entire corporate business industry world, is the entire world system in itself. I mean, one is in no way in the middle lower class in a position to have any power over your money, your income, or your job position. It is all decided by the manager, the supervisor, the owner of that, for example, that one business that you're in relationship to. Then that business's standing is in relationship to other businesses in the entire chain. Those businesses are dependent on decisions and actions that is being made in the entire economic system. Within that, the entire economic system's relationship to humanity, which will then in turn determine humanity's relationship to money, and from there will determine whether you will, for example, keep your job or not. And within this world system integrated relationship, to in any way believe that one have a choice in where one is situated or positioned within this world system and one's relationship to one's job is an illusion. As with one's relationship to believing that you had a choice in who you are within this world and this reality is an illusion, because you were a baby that had come into this world physically, essentially with open arms, unconditionally saying, here I am. And what had determined who you are was your parents, was your family, was your environment. What determined your life in this world was the world system in its entirety. There, within that relationship, exists no choice, no free will. Because, I mean, if choice was an absolute awareness, in fact, if free will was a physical living condition, in fact, that was a real reality for human beings, I mean, as a baby, you would thus, in your awareness of having choice, if your parents were behaving in certain ways that were, for example, conflictual or argumentative, and they were rising up those energies, would have been able to take a breath and made an informed, aware decision within yourself to not accept and allow such reactive behaviors to imprint into your beingness and into your physical body. You would have, for example, if your parents as a child right in front of you were being deliberately abusive toward you, and you had that absolute awareness of choice and of free will, have taken a breath, made a decision, and informed them that you are not the type of parents that I want in this life, in my life. You would have then been able to exist in a world system that would have taken you out of those conditions and given you a different family, for example. I mean, essentially giving children thus the free will and the choice to align themselves with human beings that would give them the most effective opportunity in life and living on this earth, but that does not exist. As babies, as children, we don't even have a voice to conceptualize in what it is that is being imprinted into and onto us. And then children simply grow up in the quantum mind, believing that what they're experiencing and what's going on in their mind is who they are. But it had all been shaped, molded, formed, programmed by their parents, by their external environment. And now, yes, what can be said within the spiritual context is that the children are allowing such a life, such conditions, such relationships. And within that, what is essentially being done, what is tacitly being implied with saying that such human beings with such lives in this world have chosen it, is making it acceptable, is making it okay to exist. We're saying that it's okay for them to have such a life. They chose it. I mean, within that, saying that it is okay, that it is acceptable, any human being that stands within that religion of they chose that life is equally as one responsible for such human beings to exist in this world, on this earth, is saying that such human nature will continue on this earth, in this world, within humanity, unchanged, because that is the life they chose. In this, what is happening is that human beings, human nature on earth will not change. It cannot change as long as we individually and collectively accept such human nature, allow such human nature to continue existing in this world on earth within humanity. And we're not seeing, realizing, and understanding with regards to what we are in fact accepting and allowing within the statement of they chose that life, is abdicating our direct responsibility to such human beings, to such parents, for example, existing in their relationship to their children. It is all existent within the core belief that we're not responsible for the lives of other human beings, that we have no direct relationship or access to making a difference in human beings' lives. And thus it is simply so much easier for the minority in this world that can make a difference in this world system's relationship to humanity as a whole to say, leave it as is. They chose that life. But if one do real, in-depth, detailed investigation into, for example, in the world system's relationship to humanity, you'll realize how many human beings' mental and physical states is directly linked to this world system, to the economic system that is directly controlling and keeping their lives in the condition and state that it is, which physically expose them to conditions for which their mind is not prepared to handle. And that thus sets their entire psychological state into madness and mayhem, and drives them into conditions where they'll be taken to extremes to survive. And all of it was directly linked to money. Now, for the elite to have the lives that they have with the money that they own, the world system has to stay the way it is. So what's really going on in their unconscious mind with saying that everyone, the majority in this world that is on the outskirts of the world system and money, chose the lives that they're living, is to in fact keep the money system the way it is, so that they can keep their income the way it is, so that they can keep their personalities and their mind and their who they are completely intact. If one were really genuine, unconditional about the caring of humanity as a whole, one would realize what physically, practically requires and needs change that will ensure an equal and one life for everyone on this earth is this very world system, is this very money system. And I would suggest to investigate in how we're walking within the equal money system, in that there are many and a lot of research already done in the direct link to human beings' positions in this world because of and due to the money system, that they have no choice, that there exists no free will in their direct relationship to their lives on earth, because it had all been conditioned and determined and controlled by the world system, the money system. I mean, essentially, if we now have a look at bringing in, and we'll walk this in more detail in the next interview, about that dynamic of the relationship between the wanted and the unwanted. Now, what's interesting about how the world system is set up, it's like a chessboard game. And you have the king and queen, essentially. And you're in your process of taking out the king and queen. And that would be essentially in positioning yourself within a place as being an elite within the world system, to have lots of money. But what is not being realized is that for you to have an elitist position within the world system hierarchy, you have to take out people on your way to that position. That there's only so much space within the very world system of money to cater for a select few of humanity, while the rest of the majority of humanity has to exist on the outskirts of this system. And so within that, now you're making your way to the wanted only while ignoring the apparent unwanted. And essentially it becomes more a game of, I want that position, so you're going to become the unwanted and I'm going to position myself into the wanted. That we're not realizing that your process to getting to that elitist position in a profession, for example, in making money, was not just based on a vibrational frequency of energy within your mind. You took specific actions and made deliberate decisions in your world and reality, and then you're walking your way and gliding your way apparently through getting what it is that you want or desire, but you are not seeing at all How many other human beings, for example, applied for that same position, that their entire lives, they had a family to support, was dependent on that position, but because you are moving yourself within desiring and wanting and needing that position, that you in no way realize how many other people's lives you destroyed for you to have that position. And so it becomes like a chess game that you're playing, knocking out all the various other parts in their positions as you're moving your way to the king and queen. And there you eventually take out one of the top positions, and there you're situated in an elitist position in the world system, making an abundance of money, and you had to take out a lot of other human beings and their lives for you to be in that position. And that's how the world system, in fact, really operate and work. And apparently it's within the nature of the law of attraction. I've attracted this position to me when you've essentially more demolished your way to it, and within that ruined and destroyed other human beings' lives to get there. But one is so possessed within this experience of energy and this belief of a law of attraction that one do not see the reality of one's actions and the reality consequence of one's actions in this world system. So within this as well, in the research that we have done within Destiny, regarding apparent choice in one's coming into this world and reality. Yes, before the changes in heaven had happened, and I would suggest listening to the Journeys into the Afterlife series to find out the extent of the changes that had in fact manifested in the heaven existence with the opening of the portal, was that beings were forced to believe that your life on earth had some greater meaning and purpose to it, when it was all in fact a deliberate, programmed illusion into one's mind in having human beings cycle or being cycled through the processes of reincarnation between heaven and earth, that there was never a greater purpose and meaning to one's life on earth. It was all deliberately controlled into the mind within the physical body, so that beings never realized the extent of the control and enslavement they were in fact within by the creators of this existence that were sitting in the heaven existence, essentially more laughing at human beings for in any way believing that a life of suffering and pain, abuse is valid. And so human beings were recycled into this earth, into lives over and over and over again, never questioning, but is this in any way a valid life for me or any one of me as a human being within this existence, as everyone was being kept preoccupied in their minds in some way or another, such as, for example, everyone chose their lives to not consider a different way of life within and on this earth that is in fact possible with simply a decision within oneself and a change of this very world system. Thus, does choice and free will really in fact exist? No, it does not. And one will see that within the Quantum Mind interview series, and the more we continue within the EqualMoney system as well, that it is really just a convenient excuse for the elite within this world to not have to change this world system that is currently providing the money for the luxury of the lives that they're living in. and so will at all cost protect the world system, protect the money system, to protect their minds, to protect their personalities, to protect their worlds. And so we call on those that do see the common sense within this point of choice, and to realize that those in this world system with money are in fact in a position of responsibility, that we have to stand up within ourselves and in this world to establish a world system that ensure an equal and one life for all. Because I mean, I'm sure this is something that those on this earth that are suffering in poverty, starvation, and famine, that do not have a voice to speak in this world, would want. And to thus not only stand up for self, but stand up for them. And realizing that the decision to change the life for ourselves as for all is within us. We have to stand up and stand together for ourselves and for all, to ensure eventually that each being that come into this world have an equal and one opportunity to life and living. Alright, we'll in the next interview again look more at choice, and this time within the context of the law of attraction, within the phrases of the wanted and the unwanted as utilized by Abraham-Hicks. Thank you very much.